Hey everyone, this is Brownie Cakes Aquascapes and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a stunning aquascape on a super low budget using this everyday vase. If you like what you see, please leave a like and a comment, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when I release new videos. It will really help me out. Let's get into it. This low budget Vasescape is going to be perfect for you guys out there who aren't sure whether you want to get into aquascaping yet and don't want to invest a huge amount of money, or maybe you just can't keep a huge tank in your rented accommodation, or your partner just won't let you keep a massive tank. So yeah, let's get into the setup of this one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bit of this foam matting to go underneath the vase. This is going to be so that the vase doesn't like wobble too much or get knocked over too easily, and in general it's just going to make it a lot more sturdy and house ready. This specific mat is from JBL, it's really high quality and it's not particularly expensive, but if you don't want to go to that extent, then you can grab a piece of yoga mat or some rubber matting to go underneath, anything to stop it from moving around too much. Now I'm just going to take this vase and I'm going to push it into the edge of the mat, apply some force so it leaves a nice dent so that I've got an outline that I can kind of cut around. As you can see, it left a bit of a rim that I can cut around. So that looks good to me. Dispose of all of these pieces of foam responsibly, throwing them in nature or anything, and then we're just going to set our vase on top. There you have it. You can take your time with that and do it a bit more neatly, but for my purposes that's fine. Okay, so we've got our substrate layer in. This is simply organic potting soil for houseplants underneath, and then on top it's capped with a thick layer of pre-washed sand. Make sure to pre-wash it because sand that comes from bags is generally very dirty and gritty and it's going to cloud your water up a lot, so thoroughly wash it until all the water runs clear, and then place a thick layer of the organic potting soil at the bottom and a large layer of the sand on top to make sure none of the soil escapes into the water column, because that's going to be basically impossible to clear up. Okay, the next part of the process is the hardscape. Now we're going to spend a good period of time on the hardscape because we want it to be just right. The hardscape is the backbone of the aquascape and thus we need it to be strong and bold, otherwise the rest of the aquascape is probably just going to fall flat. So what I've got today for the hardscape is I've got this lovely piece of spiderwood that I've pre-soaked. It's got really nice detailing, it's tall and not wide, which means that we can set it in the vase and probably have it come out the top. I also took, ahead of time, I removed a few of the pieces of wood on the edge of it, and this is going to give us a few little twiggy pieces of wood that we can use to add detail. I've also got this small piece of rock from my other aquarium, which is going to have some bacteria colonized on it, and is also going to help to add a little bit more detail but not take up too much of the substrate space. And then I've got a few more pieces of little pebble type size rock that I've shattered off another piece of the same kind of rock. If you're going to do that with a hammer, always wear eye protection because getting sharp rock in your eye is definitely going to be a no. So let's get on with this hardscape. Okay guys, now the hardscape's in, let's start talking plants. We've got a good selection today and a couple of different planting methods, so let's get talking through what we're going to do. The first plant that we've got for our scape today is Microsorum narrowleaf. This is otherwise known as Java fern with the narrowleaf variety. It comes in a pot, or at least we've got the pot variety. So in order to prep this to plant, we're just going to pull the pot off the bottom, Dispose of the plastic plant. And then we're going to remove this rock wool. This is just a planting medium that it can grow in. So we're literally just going to tear that down the middle. Try not to damage the roots of the plant too much. Pull it straight off and it should just come off like so. And then we can just simply remove the other half. Pull this side off. Should come off pretty easily. If you're finding some of it's getting stuck, you can take a pair of tweezers and simply pull it off with the pair of tweezers like so. A pair of tweezers is always a useful tool to have at hand when you're doing some aquascaping. So there you go. Doesn't matter if there's still a little bit there. It's not going to cause any damage to the inside of the aquarium. Not going to cause any issues at all. But it's a bit unsightly, so you want to get as much off as possible. Beautiful. So there's our plant prepared. Java fern is a rhizome based plant, which means it doesn't have a traditional stem or bulb that you plant into the substrate. It's actually an epiphyte plant, which means it likes to grow on stuff. So we're going to attach it to a piece of the hardscape in order to have it as like a centerpiece plant. First, I'm going to remove any dead or dying leaves that don't look like they're doing too well. This is going to allow the plant to put all of its focus into growing new leaves as opposed to repairing old ones. So there we go. We've got our nice prepared Java fern. Move that out of the way. And so I think for this we're going to stick it on that center piece of wood, which obviously means we have to dislodge it from the hardscape. So let's go ahead and do that. Try not to cause too much damage to the rest of the hardscape, but we can always put it back afterwards, so it's not really a problem. Okay, there we go. Get that out. There are a couple of ways you can go about attaching this. First, you need to decide whereabouts you want to attach it, and I want mine to be centerpiece, so I think I'm just going to attach it just there. That's going to look pretty nice, I think. Just like that. And now the best ways to go about attaching this to the wood, you can either super glue it, which is obviously one method you can use. It works perfectly well. Just as long as you're going to do that, make sure it's pure cyanoacrylate super glue and that it's the gel type, because if you use the liquid type it will run all over the place and that's no good. The method today we're going to use is we're going to use some dark thread in order to attach it to the wood, and this thread isn't going to cause any damage to the rest of the aquarium. It's going to decompose over time, and it's just going to hold the Java fern there whilst it roots itself to the piece of wood. Our Java fern ready to go. Our next addition to the vase is Anubias nana. This is another epiphyte plant, so we're not going to need to plant it into the substrate. In fact, you want to keep the rhizome outside of the substrate, as covering it will cause the plant to rot and die. For this, I'm just going to wedge it in between the rock and the wood and hope that it stays in place. Next we have Alternanthera Renekii mini. This is a medium difficulty plant from the tropical range. It's a nice red plant that's going to add a burst of colour to the midground. It will stay pretty low, so it won't need too much trimming, but regular trimming will keep it nice and bushy. It's a heavy root feeder, so pressing it deep into the substrate to make sure it can absorb enough nutrients is going to be crucial. Our final plant for the foreground is going to be Eleocharis acicularis mini, otherwise known as dwarf hairgrass. This is a plant from the tropical 1-2 growth range, which is a fantastic range of in vitro plants, which means they've been grown outside of the presence of algae, pesticides or pests. So they come completely clean and they're ready to go. They're basically baby plants. They come in this super nutrient rich liquid, so we're just going to get rid of that liquid and wash off the bottom of the plants. And then we're going to divide the plant up into smaller portions. Between 6 and 8 is probably going to be great for this. It's a carpeting plant and it is going to carpet around the inside of the pot like that. As you can see, you get a huge amount of plant for your money. This range of plants is fantastic value. dispersed the yellow chorus around the front of the vase, and with that our foreground is complete. Now we can move on to the background plants. Okay, our next plant being added into the mixture is Lobelia cardinalis. This is a fast growing, easy to grow stem plant. It has these nice flattened leaves, and underneath it grows this beautiful purple coloration, which is going to be a nice little highlight to one of the sides. I think for us we're going to plant it on the left hand side over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a few of these stems and get them in the substrate. Okay, so now we're moving on to some more clippings that I've taken from my other aquariums. The first plant going in will be the plant that's going to go straight down the middle, which is going to be Limnophila sessiliflora. Limnophila sessiliflora is Asian swampweed, so it's an incredibly fast growing plant. It's got this really nice like filamented leaf structure. It looks great, it grows fast, soaks up a bunch of nutrients. It's going to go really well in our vase. Final plant that we're putting in here is Heteranthera zoostalifolia, or otherwise known as stargrass. This is again a very fast growing plant. It's going to soak up all of those nutrients and make that background look nice and lush. Okay guys, there we go, we're done with planting. Now all that's left to do is to fill it up with water. There you have it guys, the completed aquatic vase, completely aquascaped, looking beautiful, ready to go in your home. Thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, leave a comment, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for when I release new videos. See you later.